Another Dooley Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, and welcome into another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. I'd have a good show for you today. Chaz Henry's going to join us, new Hall of Famer, of course, going into the University of Florida Athletic Hall of Fame. We'll talk to him about his career and, of course, the big kick to beat Georgia in 2010. Also, his Ray Guy Award. And I mean, the guy was a great kicker. If you remember when he first got in, I was like, Chaz Henry, just for that field goal, and then you kind of go, oh yeah, he did win the Ray Guy Award. That's kind of a big deal. So I'll have him on today, and then on Monday, Coach Spurrier will rejoin us as he does every Monday on Meldon Mondays. And on it looks like next Thursday, Ross Dellinger is going to join us. Now, Ross is a great writer and is all over this college football world. In fact, he is traveling today, and then next Thursday he's going to be in Phoenix for the big meetings where they're going to try to decide some stuff. So maybe we can get something out of him about that. Hopefully, we'll be able to hook that up. He said he thinks he can do it, but you never know till you get to that moment, as you know. All right, so let's get to our Process Service of Gainesville starting five, brought to you by Process Service of Gainesville. Scott Hart, great man there, gave me actually, and I'll get to this in a minute. Scott gave me a good little bit of a good nugget that I'd forgotten about. So for a piece I'm doing for Gators Wire, that's going to be at number, where is it? Maybe it's later in the show. I know it's in here somewhere. But yeah, it's number 5. Anyway, let's just get to it. All right, number 1 on our Process Service of Gainesville starting 5. I'm just going to go back to Tuesday night and what happened there with Florida hitting 7 homers, including 2 by Jack Caglione. And we keep thinking it's, the guy hits a homer in 9 straight games and then he doesn't get one. And he comes back in the next game and gets 2. It's just, you're seeing something weird, man. It's like different. He's just built different. And, we've talked a lot about whether they're wasting him. I mean, what are you going to do? All you're doing is having him bat second in every game and pitch every third game. You're doing everything you can with him. When I say waste him, it's like you hate to see a guy be that good and the team not be good around him. And as a result, they end up probably traveling for a regional if they get into a regional. But the point is, you got 8 more games, 8 chances to see Jack Caglione in Gainesville. They're not going to host a regional, but there are 8 more games, home games, including one next week, and then the weekend, and then the next week, and then the next weekend. That's it, and then you're done. You can't see him anymore. So take advantage of it. Go out there and watch the guy play. He is generational, and we've never seen anybody quite come through here that does. I mean, Laporta was similar. And like I've always said, that the discussion about the greatest Gator players ever, you got to include Langford, you got to include Wilkerson, you got to include Zunino, you might include Laporta, and now you have to definitely include Cags. Out of those 5, who would it be? I'm going to wait for Cags to finish. Like last year, the argument was with Langford or Wilkerson. I don't know who it's going to end up being. At some point, we are going to do something this summer, maybe on the 12 in Gators Wire, the 12 best Florida players of all time. My mind is circulating, so I'm thinking about that. All right, let's get to number 2, and that is softball, which happened last night, Wednesday night, and that one didn't go so well. It was a 2-0 Florida lead, and I'm sitting there watching it and thinking, hey man, this would be a big win for them, beat FSU and blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden they gave up a 6-run inning. It seems to me, and maybe it was like this last year, but I don't go back and look at every inning and what they did, but it seems to me like Florida, they get to about the second time through the order, or maybe even the third with some of their pitchers, and it just blows up. And then the other thing is they have a hard time putting a finger in the dike. They have a hard time plugging the holes, man, because Last night they gave up 6 runs and that's it. I'm done with them. I was 6-2. I'm done. I'm going to watch something else. Ended up being 12-3. Not good. But hey, look, they still have a really good record. They're still 37-11. They got a big weekend series this week. Those things do happen in midweek games, although they shouldn't happen as much in midweek games when because you can pitch whoever you want. It's not like baseball where you can't pitch your best pitchers. But FSU's really good, and Florida's got to play them again next week over there, so that's going to be rough. But we'll see how the Gators do that. But it certainly was not what I was hoping for last night. I can tell you that. Number 3 on the process service of Gainesville starting 5. Let's talk a bit about the draft. We haven't talked a ton about the draft because we just let all the ESPN knuckleheads do it for you, breaking down guys, and then this has changed. We're putting him from 3rd to 5th. What happened? Nothing happened. We have to change it constantly. Anyway, the draft is tonight, tomorrow, and Friday. And look, I'm not even going to give you the times because I'm not going to watch it. I'll be curious to see what happens and where people go, but I'd rather it's kind of like the NBA games. I wake up in the morning and I go, let's see what happened in the NBA games last night. And you see, that's interesting. Hopefully we get some game 7s. I'll get to that in a minute, but we'll see what happens there. But the draft also will show you, and not that you need any reminding of it, is just where Florida's fallen. Now, Florida's the only school, I think, to have a player drafted in each draft, which is cool. Maybe it's one other school, but they're not going to have many in this one, that's for sure. I mean, Pearsall and Iguaquin, and I don't know where he'll go. He'll go late, I think 5th or 6th. Pearsall's looking late 2nd round, could be the 3rd. I think he's better than that, but and these guys are wrong a lot. We know that. But it will be a reminder if you sit there and watch it. I mean, you may sit and watch it because you're a big Jaguar or a big Bucks or a big Dolphin fan or a big Philadelphia fan or a big Cardinals fan, and you just want to see where your team does. But it's really bad TV. You know that, and I know that, and they know that. And it's just guys sitting around talking about something that they've been talking about since January. And just talking about it again, and now it's actually happening, and they can break it down and talk about it again. So it's a little overdone, I think, for me, my taste. But anyway, we'll see. We'll watch it tonight. I hope Ricky Pearsall goes in at least 2nd round, at least, and maybe early in the 2nd round. That'd be great. I really want him to do well. Let's get to number 4 in our process service of Gainesville starting 5, which it was such a big story that Reggie Bush was getting his Heisman back. And in fact, as a Heisman voter, I got a email from the Heisman Trust about why they were doing it and everything. And of course, the reason they say the changing landscape of college football. What a crock of crap that is. Look, I didn't really know that Reggie needed to have it taken away in the first place. Look, he won the award. They gave it to him. He did. His parents were in a luxury house that USC provided for him. And now, that would be okay. Well, it wasn't okay, though. That's like saying we should let out everybody. Let's just say they changed the law and everybody's allowed to, do cocaine. Okay. I wouldn't do it, but just say everybody was allowed to do it. So everybody who's done it before, it's not like you have immunity. You don't have amnesty. If you committed a rule, an infraction against a rule when it was a rule, you should be punished. Now, again, I'm not a big fan of taking a trophy away from a guy. I don't think they should have, but giving it back makes a big deal. And what I'm going to do, in fact, as soon as I get done here, I'm going to sit down and write this. It's going to be the 12 rights or wrongs they need to make right with the Gators. If they're going to do that, if they're going to take it this way, hey, Lomas Brown was taking money for tickets. Florida got on probation. They lost the SEC championship because of that. They took it away. Give it back. Come on. Give it back. Give back the 90 championship. They won that fair and square on the field. Give it back. You want to start giving things back, just make reparations for everything. And I won't have a hard time coming up with 12. I can promise you. I've already think I'm at 11 right now. So I'm looking forward. There's some of those 12 things that you go, this could be a little bit of an effort. I got a lot of research to do. And there's other ones where you go, this is going to be fun. I can't wait to write this. And that's exactly where I am with this one. So we'll be working on that. 84, 85, 90 SECs. So I think one of the suggestions I got from Scott Hart was the swindle in the swamp. So maybe you could do that. Maybe you could go back and look at whether those were fumbles or not. Or if you remember in that game, Faison was called for 2 fumbles, and it didn't look like both of them he hit the ground. His elbow was on the ground when the ball came loose. And then they were not called for several fumbles. That's why they call it the swindle in the swamp. Anyway, let's get to number 5 on our process service of Gainesville starting 5. And that is what is going on at the Zurich golf tournament. Now, I know I usually don't talk a lot of golf in the first segment, but guess who's playing together in the Zurich? It's a team competition, 2-man teams. Billy Horschel's already won this once, and he is playing again this year. This year, he's playing with Tyson Alexander, who's, of course, the son of Buddy Alexander, good friend of mine. And Tyson's actually a good dude, too. I've talked to him several times. And I'd like to see them win. Maybe we could get a flag signed by them if that happens. But for the golf tournament. But that is cool though that Billy is playing with his former coach's son, and his former coach's son is really good, as we know. But that'll be neat. I'll be keeping an eye on those Gators for you in that tournament. And again, it's a lot going on. A lot going on this weekend. I got to keep track of things. All right, so that's going to do it for our process service of Gainesville starting 5. Thanks to Scott Hart. Appreciate him. We'll take a break. And when we come back, we will talk to Chaz Henry, All-American, Hall of Famer, Grey Guy winner. What more can you want out of life at this point? And Chaz is now working in the entertainment, not the entertainment industry, the services industry for, like big hotels and stuff like that. He helps people get into the right hotels, but I'm looking forward to talking to him. Let's just shut up and let's take a break and let's bring him on, because I'm just babbling now. All right, we'll do that. We'll take a break here on another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios.
Process Service of Gainesville offers a rapid turnaround on affidavits of service for Gator lawyers locally and nationwide. Our friend Scott Hart offers immediate responses on status requests and is a member of NAPS and FAPS. And he has been a part of the community for almost 2 decades. Need service? Call Process Service of Gainesville at 407-697-9592 or email shartgators, that's G8TR, @yahoo.com. And make sure you ask about the paralegal legal secretary bonus program.
Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from another Dooley Noted podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What would give you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it.
I was driving behind a lady, and very suddenly she moved out of the way. There was a log laying in the road, and when I hit my brakes, I went on top of the log. I had 280 discs. I just haven't been the same since. Jeffrey Meldon fought for me all the way. Him and his team really went there for me. Throughout the whole lawsuit, he made sure that my bills was paid. It was never no whenever I called him and asked him for something.
Call Meldon Law right now.
Okay, and welcome back to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. It is our great pleasure to be joined by a Hall of Famer today, although technically Chaz Henry has not been inducted yet. He's got to be inducted, but he's been announced as being inducted. But that had to be quite a thrill for you there, Chaz.
Yeah, absolutely. It was. I was really taken back, and I know Judd had a lot of fun with it as well. But it's something that it's always been it was a lifelong goal of mine to really just be a Gator great while I was there at Florida, and the opportunity to actually join the prestigious group of the Hall of Fame is a loss for words. And I kept kind of repeating it over to Judd over and over. And there were so many great players that I was fortunate enough to play with, and so many that came before me that still aren't in the Hall of Fame that will be here very shortly, I'm sure. But it's a tremendous honor to say the least.
Yeah, it's hard to get in. I mean, it really is, because they only are going to take like one or two football players a year, and all the great ones that have come through here. But when it was announced that you were going in, I was like, yeah, that field goal was a big deal. And then I said, but I started thinking about it, didn't he win the Ray Guy Award? I mean, that's kind of pretty good. You're the best punter in the country. That's pretty good.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. I've got a lot of great memories there, obviously, at Florida. But the kick still resonates with me, especially for filling in for Caleb that year. And
Right.
I've actually got the football from the game-winning kick, and then I've got my Ray Guy sitting up here in my office, in my shelves here. So, but yeah, no, it was. I had some great players on that team, and it really helps you as a punter too when you got guys like Joe Hayden running downfield to force fair catches. So that makes it pretty easy to do that, and Janoris Jenkins and a lot of guys.
Yeah,
so
exactly. But I mean, I think you rarely had punts return. That's for sure. And that was I think one of the best things that you were able to do. And I think that's one reason you won the award. And then like the Ray Guy Award doesn't have anything to do with a game-winning field goal,
Right.
but
nice little icing to have on there.
It's still in the back of their minds.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. So I mean, that was a big thing, with Urban, being obviously the head of the special teams group. We put a big precedent on, we didn't want returns at all. And I think my freshman year we had, we didn't give up a return until like the 7th or 8th game of the season. Not one return. So probably helped that I was only averaging about 40 yards a punt at that point. So they didn't have too far to go to get down there and cover it. But no, it was a big thing that we put a lot of pride into. And it was funny. I actually saw when they were kind of going over my stats, learned a couple of things that I didn't know about, whenever I was there at Florida, that I think the average return yardage per return was less than 2. It was like 1.5 or 1.3 yards per return, which just goes to show you the guys that we had on there and how well we were trained on that unit.
Yeah, it's amazing that you ended up in Florida, because your parents both went to UT, and of course, arch rivals. But you always were kind of a Gator. You wanted to play at Florida.
Yeah, I grew up watching Steve Spurrier and Danny Werfel and the likes beat the tar out of Tennessee every single year. So even my dad, I remember growing up as a kid, had the Gator hater hat and that ugly Tennessee orange in the back of the car. But it's because they couldn't beat Florida. So, it was one thing you always admire, the guys that are on top and how they're able to do it. And, I decided I wanted a better color orange is what I wanted to wear. It fits well within the wardrobe a lot better.
So you didn't want puke orange. You wanted
I didn't want that vomit orange.
Yeah.
No, I needed the real color.
What was it like being recruited by Urban, though? Because, I mean, we all know, we've heard a million Urban stories. We had him on the podcast recently, and he was great talking about how he regrets the way he exited Florida, and he's talked about that publicly before. But when you came there, I mean, it was just getting started, obviously. So you were like this 07 recruiting class?
Right. Yeah. So we came in, I was committed actually before they won the national championship, before the season started. So I committed my junior year. But you could see, I mean, there was something special going on down there, and how just Urban operates. I mean, he's always going, and you could see and that was when I don't even think. Oh, no, they actually had signed the 06 class. So the Tim Tebow, Brandon Spikes,
right?
Brandon James, Percy Harvin. The list goes on and on for that class. Riley Cooper. I mean, there's probably 15 guys that played in the NFL from that class alone. you could see what they were building was something pretty special. And so just to be able to be a part of that. And in our class, we had, not too shabby of the Pounceys and Joe Hayden and, Carlos Dunlap. I mean, I think I think he might still be playing now. I'm not sure. So, pretty special class there that we were able to be a part of. But, Urban, I still talk to Urban. He actually sent me a note whenever the announcement was made, and he and I still chat. He's always been a big advocate of mine, and I'm a big mentor that I always look up to as well.
Yeah. By the way, for those of you who don't know, Chaz is now a senior vice president with Meyer and Jabara hotels and down in Tampa. And I know you were up in Philly for a while and then came down to Tampa. How did you get into the hospitality business?
Yeah, so actually, when I was I was playing for the Eagles at the time, and I did a lot of charity work with the CHOP Hospital and with the Wounded Warriors Foundation. And so a guy that I really connected with was a guy by the name of Harold Carmichael, who I think he just got in the Hall of Fame, I think last year or the year before.
He grew up in Jacksonville, and so when I was in Jacksonville at the Times Union, I did a bunch of Harold Carmichael stories because he was such a big deal. Yeah,
and Harold, it was another mentor that I really look up to, and I loved Harold. And Harold was really his role for the Eagles at the time was a player engagement representative, really just kind of when outside of football, what do you want to do? What's your interest level? And so he and I would have always conversations, and he kind of led up a lot of the stuff on the charity work. And I was there every Monday. We'd have our off day. We'd go do some charity work and go do some different things for the Lurie's Foundation. I got to know Harold really well. So Harold was kind of asking me, what would you like to do outside of football, whenever you get done? And I said, well, in 10 to 15 years, I'd like to get into some real estate or maybe go back and get my master's. And he goes, if you're going to get into real estate, you should really meet a guy that I know really well up here in Philadelphia. Has got some hotel stuff, and I think you guys would hit it off. And became really close with him, and his business partner is Ron Jaworski, who obviously a big Eagles legend up there. Yeah. And they own some golf courses, and I like to play golf, so that made it pretty seamless transition. And got the fortunate enough to meet them. And then whenever I retired in 2014, he offered me an opportunity to come into the hotel industry, and I've been here for now about 10 and a half years now. So it's been a fun ride.
Wow, that's cool. And you have a child too. I know at least one, right?
I do. Yeah, I have a little girl. My wife, who's also a Gator.
I was going to ask if you met her here. Yeah.
So we actually were friends of friends, and we knew each other. And then when we started dating, whenever I was down like right after the Bucks or so, right around that time. 2013, 2014. But we actually never dated in college, but just dated after and reconnected at another football player that I played with at his birthday party. But my wife and I, we actually, today is actually our anniversary, our 3-year anniversary today. And our little girl is 8 months old right now, so she's doing great.
Yeah, that is great. Let's go back to that famous kick, infamous for Georgia fans, but famous for Florida. And I did a big thing on this several years ago when Grantham was here, because he's a guy who was, you're going to choke, MFer, you're going to choke. Yeah. And what did you think when you were running out there? I mean, like, we thought the game was over when Will Hill's streaking down the sideline.
Me too. I was pretty excited. I was ready to go inside the locker room and go celebrate. So
yeah, because I'm like, we all of a sudden we goes, oh yeah, it's overtime. So it didn't really matter that he ran it back to the 3.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of us were like, we didn't realize that, hey, if you score a touchdown on the, does that count? I think a lot of us were still kind of trying to understand the rules, and everybody's just keep going and just see what happens. So, yeah.
So when you run out there for the kick and you see Grantham doing, I guess they called a timeout, right?
They did, yeah. They called a timeout, which I kind of found funny, given that I'm not a kicker and they're trying to ice me. And and my head recruiter actually for when I was grew up obviously in Georgia and was recruited by Georgia and Florida were the two main schools. Mark Rick was the head recruiter for me there, and Urban was at Florida for my head recruiters, and Mike Bobo also at Georgia. But when I was over there, and I just remember he called the timeout to kind of ice me, and in my head I was just like, okay, just keep your head down. Yeah, you've done this before. You made your last kick. You're riding a hot streak of 1 right now, so let's make it 2. And I remember looking over after I kind of saw the ref come in and blow his whistle, and I looked over and I see Mark Rick, and I just kind of start laughing. I'm like, he's really going to ice me? Like, I'm not even the kicker. You're going to really try to ice me right now, but okay. And then I saw Coach Grantham beside him, who I didn't realize was the defensive coordinator at the time and a future Florida coach that was going to be on our sideline at the time, giving the choke signal, and found that entertaining and decided to blow him a little kiss and wish him well. And the rest is history, I guess.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, a lot of people would have taken that and gone, "Oh gosh, I can't believe a coach is actually telling me that." Now that would be in your head, but you just kind of like, I'm not supposed. I hope I make this, but we're hoping this goes well. But I mean, you'd made a bunch of extra points, and that was the main reason they had you be the kicker, was because you could make a bunch of extra points. I think you were like 28 out of 29 that year, right?
Yeah, and one of them got blocked against Vanderbilt. I can go through every kick for you, 15 years later, and tell you what happened and what was going on there. But no, yeah, I kicked in high school. Was a pretty solid kicker. Nowhere near the level of Caleb and Jonathan Phillips and the guys that we have on the roster. But it was something that I'd always practice it in the off season and always practice it with the guys and tell Caleb I'm a much better kicker than him, and show him and go hit a 50-yarder, after if he was having a bad day, maybe just rub it in a little bit. I probably made about 1 out of 5 of them, but that one, I made sure that he remembered of it. So, it was something you always just, as a kicker and punter, you always just, practice it along the way, even though if you're not doing it in real time, because you never know, if something happens. We only travel with one punter, one kicker. So you always had to kind of be prepared for if something happens in a game, you got to be ready, right? And no excuses really. So,
what is that like though, because you got carried off the field? I mean, very few people get to experience being actually carried off the field unless they're the head coach, of something. But to be carried off the field like that, what was that like?
A lot better than having your head down after some games whenever you miss the kick. So no, it was really cool, and it just really showed. We were having Coach, that was the year that he had retired and then unretired and came back, which I was pretty happy about. I told him, I said, you can retire after this year. That's fine. I just want you for my senior year. You said 4 years. You promised me 4 years. But no, we were having it was definitely a down year from Florida's standards at that time. And, it was one that to really just kind of, re-energize our team to put us back up there. And we had some tough losses that year. Some really close games, LSU game, Mississippi State at homecoming. First time I think we lost homecoming in 30-something years. And those were 2 games that I missed kicks on too. So that was definitely in my head, not weighing, but definitely a thought that can't do this again, right? So this is we've had too much adversity going through. It's time for a little positive vibes here, and to do it against Georgia, being from Georgia, is pretty special too.
Yeah. When that old Mississippi State game was 10-7, I think, right?
10-7, yeah.
Wow.
So the funny, I'll never forget it. The next morning, Sunday after the game, it was SEC was having a kind of a down year that year too, and exception of Auburn and Alabama at that time, and Auburn where Cam was. But they had the front title of Fox Sports was SEC try SUK. Like suck, and it was a picture of me on the front cover, and I'm like, oh, that's really great. I appreciate that. Way to kick me when I'm down, so to speak.
That's brutal. Of course, Chaz Henry coming to you on the Big Mills Cheesesteak Zoom line. We'll play Yes, No, Where, Maybe in just a little bit, but I wanted to ask you about when you were a high school player and you were a quarterback as well. And when you got here, I think it was your first game against Hawaii, you threw a pass, a 15-yard completion. And then I was looking at the stats. I couldn't find another attempt after that.
So, actually, my freshman year, that's very close. So my freshman year, I actually only had 1 pass attempt, and that because Urban refused to let a freshman make a play for him as a punter. My job was to sit there and be a distraction on a couple of our fakes that we had. But then the last game, we actually played Michigan in the bowl game, and I threw a 15-yarder to Aaron Hernandez, actually, and we got the first down and moved the chains. And then the next game, so it was back-to-back games technically. Our first game of the season, we played Hawaii, and I had a nice on 4th and 15, I had a nice little 17-yard scamper down the sideline that was not called. But I'll never forget Urban's face when I jogged to the sideline, and he just had his hand pointed out at me, just pointing at me. And then he just smiled and he just threw his hands up and he goes, "Hey, good thing you got the first down because you'd be staying on that sideline if you didn't." So, another one that I guess it worked out in the end.
Yeah. All right, let's get to Yes, No, Where, Maybe. It's brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteak, street dining done the right way. Sponsors of the Bob Dooley Invitational, the 29th, which is coming up in 2 weeks. And if you go there and say you listen to the Chaz Henry interview, you get free fries with the order. Number one, you have taken people over to look at your paver in front of the stadium.
Yes.
Often?
More than once. Less than 100.
Less than 100. That's good. It is pretty cool though to have that out there forever. You know.
It is. Yeah. And a lot of friends and family, and even had some work colleagues, because we had a hotel in my industry now that we actually managed in Gainesville. So people would go up there and send me pictures if they went up to the stadium and saw it and didn't realize that it was up there. They just kind of happened across it, and it's a pretty cool legacy to have, even for my kids to go back to one day.
It really is. Unfortunately, one of your teammates from then you was talking about, his is gone.
It's there's a little blank space, I think, right above
so
mine
weird.
there, but yeah.
It's like they should just put something in there like a Gator or something like that, because it's just like a blank. Like, what is that about? Now you got to discuss it again.
Now it's a talking piece, right? Yeah.
That's right. All right, number two on yes, no, where, maybe. Your love for golf allowed you to put backspin on punts.
I wish that was the case, but if it was that easy, I'd probably be playing to this day, right? We wouldn't be doing this interview. I'd be at practice right now. But I'm gonna go with maybe. We'll go with maybe.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I know that like it helps you as a kicker, the rhythm and going down and digging the ball out. You know, Judd used to tell me about that all the time. You go, it's almost like hitting a wedge, and it does help you in that regard. Yeah,
and honestly, I didn't have the skill set at the time when I was in college, but I learned it when I was in the NFL, working with an Australian rules football player, which now it's 70% of the punters, I feel like now, when you look at the college, is now Australian rules, is the end over end kick and how much you can control that on a 35 to 45 yards distance. And Tommy Townsend's gotten fantastic at it. Yeah. And obviously with the Chiefs, and that really was kind of a game changer in the punting world, which you talked about. The backspin, the stop and drop. That really became the go-to move inside of the 50. So yeah. And Jeremy Crawshaw, of course, is from Australia, and it is. Yeah. Yep. He's doing pretty well for Florida. Absolutely. Special teams haven't been great, but the kickers have been great. They're not the problem. They just got to get 11 guys on the field. If we can get 11 guys out there, it would have different numbers. It wouldn't hurt us. They allow us to. We gotta remember that. But I think we got some really good special teams coach in there now that will get us right this year. All right, and number 3 on yes, nowhere, maybe. Caleb Sturgis is the best kicker in Florida history. Ooh, Judd's going to get upset with me on this. You know what? I'm going to play the political move and say that he is definitely in the top 2 to 3. That's the thing. Jeff Chandler's the all-time leading scorer at Florida. And, right, and then you got with Judd and Evan McPherson and Eddie Pinheiro. I mean, there's I would say that the punters and kickers over the last 20 years at Florida have not been too shabby. Yeah, it should be KU, Kicking University. It's not. That's right. Not DBU. It's KU. Yeah. Well, first of all, congratulations on being an All-American and being a Ray Guy winner when you were here, but obviously on being in the Gators Hall of Fame, Athletic Hall of Fame, which, as you said, it is a big honor because it's hard to get. I was trying to push for Andrew Moten to get in basketball, and he fell short. It's hard to get guys in. So you should be very proud of that. It is. I appreciate it, and it's not lost on me about how difficult it is to do, number one, but then the amount of players that are the quality of players that are already in there, and then the ones that aren't in there. It's truly staggering. So I am truly humbled by the opportunity to be put in and mentioned in that category. Well, we appreciate you, man, and we thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We'll be back with more of another Duly Noted podcast right after we take this break.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Fight Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Another duly noted podcast comes to you from the Coaches Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Okay, welcome back to another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios here in the old Ponderosa. And appreciate Chaz Henry for being on. Great guy. And he really made the effort to come on, and he really wanted to come on and talk to the Gator Nation. And it's funny because I was talking to Judd about him getting, and Chaz was pretty emotional when Judd told him he was getting in, because there was some, there were some bad feelings he had about some things, and it worked out really good for him, and I'm happy for him. All right. Oh, I know what it was. I was trying to think of what it was. He was in the building one day and nobody knew who he was. And Billy Napier found out about it and got really upset about it. And that's all been smoothed over. But, you walk into that building and you helped build that, with your success. I mean, I'm sure everybody feels that way. And everybody's like, you're not supposed to be in here. Well, I played here. We don't recognize you. And there was kind of something like that went on. I don't know exactly what it was. And he was pretty upset. And then Billy found out, and Billy called him, and they straightened it out. And he's welcome there anytime. And you can tell he's a big Gator, and I appreciate him. Let's get to our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. And Hesser and Kipke is a Gainesville law firm specializing in the areas of family law and workers' compensation. If you're a loyal listener of this show, you know who we are by now. If not, Google the firm, check out the reviews, and hear what our clients have to say. Ken and Jennifer can be reached 24/7 via call or text at 352-339-9920. Hesser and Kipke. We appreciate them. Also, they will be at the Bob Dooley. It's kind of cool. We just, I think I talked about this before. We came up with this dessert hole idea. So, they'll be on that hole, and that'll be fun. That'll be desserts too. That reminds me, I gotta make a phone call when you get down here. That's what this tournament is. You're constantly you can never you're always thinking, I've got something else to do. I've got something else to do. Something else to do. What do I got to do? I got to do this. So anyway, all right, let's get to the 3 things. Number 1 is that Chicago, the city of Chicago, or the country of Chicago, whatever you want to call it, they're talking about this. I mean, they proposed this, a $5 billion dome stadium. And your first reaction, if you've ever been there, I don't know if you've ever been to Soldier Field, it's cold. I mean, when that wind blows off that the lake there, it is cold. And that's the reason they want to do it. Look, you're not going to get a Super Bowl with that stadium. You're not going to get big concerts. You're not going to get, a lot of things that big stadiums that are domed get. So they're proposing this $5 billion deal. A lot of the money would come from taxpayers. A lot of money would come from them, though. And yeah, my first reaction when I saw it was, why do they need a dome? And then I went, oh, yeah, you do need a dome to do a lot of these things. And I love snow games. I love to watch snow games, but I'm sure you don't like being in snow games. So we'll see if that does go forward. It'll be 5 years from now, and they're going to build this really beautiful park. I saw the rendition for it. It's going to be really nice, and it's going to, according to the people doing this, bring $8 billion annually into the city. So I guess it does make some sense. All right, number 2 on our process, Hesser and Kipke, 3 things. You may have seen the equity stakes that were given out to it was the top 36 golfers. And this is a way to say, thanks for not going to live. Okay. Look, Tiger and Rory were 2 of their big targets. There's no doubt about it. But they didn't budge, and now they get paid off. Tiger got $100 million. Rory got $50 million. You go down the list. I think Justin Thomas got like 10 or 15 million, something like that. And it's based on popularity. And that's the bottom line. You're basically getting paid. You're getting this payment for sticking with us, and that you're one of the most popular players on the tour. And Tiger still is number 1, even though he's never going to win another major, and I'm not sure he's ever going to win another tournament. I mean, you watch him play. He's at 83. Or 2 shots worse than me, or better than me. So Tiger, you got to give me 2 when we play. I'm sure we'll play soon too. All right, and then finally, number 3 on Hesser and Kipke, 3 things. I did want to mention Florida Golf, because Florida Golf is at the SEC tournament now. By the time you listen to this, they may have already been eliminated. I hope they aren't. They're right now in 6th place, and the top 8 make it to match play. So hopefully they play a little better today than they did yesterday. They were 1 under yesterday. But if you want to watch it, it is on Saturday and Sunday. I think it's on the SEC Network Sunday, and maybe the Plus Saturday. I think it is ESPN Plus Saturday. So if you want to watch it, and look, I will be finding it. I can promise you that. It won't be quite the intensity of the NCAA tournament. That was the scariest I've ever been watching people play golf. I just was sitting there and like this, freaking out the whole time, but they won. And we're giving a lot of cool stuff away that we got for our tournament. Championship hoodies and stuff like that. So that'll be cool. So that is our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Let's go to our Adams Rib Co. to go. Gator of the weekend. And I thought a long time about it, and who was I going to make it? I could, Caglione was I think we did him last week already. So I decided to go with Rachel Gallen, who was named first team All SEC swimming, and that's quite an honor, because there's a lot of great swimmers out there. Now I will say this: the coaches All SEC team, it's got 12 swimmers on it. Well, that seems like a lot, but I also get it, because you have so many events, and you could be a sprinter, you could be a long distance swimmer. I have no problem with them putting 12 team players on there, but one of them is a Gator, and that's the main thing, and that's Rachel Gallen. So she is our Adams Ribco to go Gator of the weekend. And we also, someone was second team, someone was on the all freshman team. But I tell you, when you look at it, for as good as Florida is, you'd think there'd be more people on there. But anyway, so good for her. Let's move to our Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks. And I did want to say, only one person picked Florida. I started to say Texas A&M. I don't know why. Florida State to beat Florida last night. I think that was Homerville did that, and you're the only one that qualified, and we're gonna pull Monday. I think so. This is your last chance to get in. Okay, we'll pull a winner one day. You'll win a copy of my book and $25 at Leonardo's. I had just a total brain cramp there. $25 at Leonardo's plus a copy of my book will be sent to you if you are the winner. We'll pull that winner on Monday. How about that? All right. Last chance to qualify, and here's what it is. I'm putting the over-under at Cags homers against Arkansas, 3 games at 1. That's the over-under. It may seem low to you, but it's hard to hit 1 home run in a series. Okay, I know he hit 3 last week or 2 last week, right? But I'm putting it at 1. Arkansas's got better pitching than they faced this year. So it's very simple. You just go over or under. Send it to patrickdooley54@gmail.com. That's all you have to do. Over or under. All right, let's move on to this, that, and the other. Brought to you by our good friends at Ironwood Golf Course, home of the Bob Dooley Invitational, by our good friends at Ballyhoo, who the job Bill Reichert does is just unbelievable for not only for our tournament, but just, we love going in there. And by Shakow Insurance, where to go for all your important insurance needs. We appreciate all of our sponsors very much. This was that gambling has become a new concern. That's this. It's become a new concern around the country with all kinds of different issues that we have, right? And we talked last week about Jonte Porter being banned for life from the NBA. Now he'll go over to Europe and play, and I don't even know if he can find a way to gamble on European basketball, but he'll probably do it. Hey, it may be legal there. I don't know. But that's this. That is that a CFL player has been caught up in it, and now he is suspended indefinitely. He was betting sometimes on his own team in games where he was playing. Now, this is where you have this line that is so weird that you can't cross. It's understandable where you're allowed to bet. You're not supposed to gamble if you're a professional athlete, right? You can go bet on the horses or whatever like that, but they don't want you betting on your sport, and they don't want you betting on your sport because you may have inside information or you may influence games, and that's what they're trying to keep teams away from. It's the old Pete Rose argument. Pete Rose, I bet on the Reds to win. Well, if you bet on the Reds to win, did you leave a pitcher in too long because you wanted to get the win? And it didn't matter about the long term. It was only matter about the short term in your bet. That's where the problem lies, and that's where that's why you sit there and you go, well, gambling is legal now, but why are people getting kicked out of the league? This is why. You don't want it to damage the integrity of the game. So I'm reading this story about the CFL guy, and it came up to the next story, which is the next story was, here are the 4 bets to make on the NBA playoffs tonight. I'm like, man, you guys, ESPN is like going, this is terrible. This guy did this. But here's an opportunity for him to do it again. Look, I get the whole thing with gambling. I'm not a gambler because I don't have enough money to lose. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't have enough money to lose, and they lose it. But anyway, this whole gambling thing is another one of the issues that we're dealing with college sports. That's one of the things I may ask back if they're going to make things right again. Hey, you can gamble now, right? Let Teddy Dupay, give him his eligibility back. Let him go play another year. I mean, he was betting on games, okay, but they weren't his games. But hey, let everybody play. Let everybody come back and do it. You gave Reggie Bush back his Heisman. I'm looking forward to writing that story after I get done here. All right, so that's this, that, and the other, brought to you by Ironwood, Shakow Insurance, and by Ballyhoo Grill. Let's get to our Swamp games of the weekend to wrap things up today. And again, thanks to Zach for doing a wonderful job, and we appreciate Chaz Henry for joining us on the Big Mills Cheesesteak Zoom line. Our Swamp games of the weekend are brought to you by the Swamp Restaurant. We appreciate the Swamp so much. They will be out there serving margaritas in 2 weeks from tomorrow. No, 2 weeks from Saturday. It's coming down fast. Yes, it is. All right, let's get to our Swamp games of the weekend. And that Swamp is the place to go to watch these games. Have a lot of fun there. Got a lot of TVs, and I know that it's going to be crazy this weekend with graduation and everything coming up. Graduation's next week, though, right? Yeah, because I pushed my tourney back a week. Yeah, so but there'll still be a lot of people in town getting ready for graduation. All right, so let's get to our games of the weekend brought to you by the Swamp Restaurant. Let's talk baseball first. Friday, 8 o'clock against Arkansas on the SEC Network. Okay. Florida needs to somehow win 2 out of 3 here. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Arkansas is really good. Florida, if you want to get into the tournament, you want to even maybe try to host a regional, go on a run here. Go win 2 out of 3 at Arkansas. Don't lose any more midweek games. I think you only have 2 left. And then come home for two series against what did they get? Georgia? No, they have Kentucky and Tennessee, I think, right? They're good teams too. Everybody's good in the SEC. Go 4-2 in those games, and then go to Athens, and even if you only win 1, then you might still host a region. But you got to win games, and this is what I always talked about with men's basketball. When they were, their RPI wasn't bad, but we didn't know if they were going to make the tournament, and I was like, you got to win some games, man. So they went out and what'd they do? They beat Kentucky at Kentucky. They beat Auburn at home. They beat other teams. They obviously in the SEC tournament, they did wonderful things and probably got they definitely were undefeated. And I think it had a lot to do with Micah Handlocken's injury. But the point is, it's the same way in baseball. You have an opportunity here. And I know that Sully has been talking to the team about, hey, remember that Ole Miss team from a couple years ago, 3 years ago? They went to they barely made it to Hoover and had a losing record, went one and done in Hoover, and nobody thought they were getting in, and they got in and won the whole thing. Anything could happen, It's a series of games. It's not a series. It's a series of games. So you got this game, and you're pitching these guys, and you're going to throw everything at them, and then there's another game. You wake up 2 days later, and you play another game. And that's what it is. So anything can happen, guys. Or in the regionals, you play the next day. But the only way it's going to happen is if you go on a run here. Okay. Are you good enough to go on a run? Well, you got the best player in baseball on your team. You should be good enough to go on a run. And there are good enough players on this team. They've obviously, it hadn't turned out as well as we thought it would, especially some of the portal guys. But they'll be fine. All right. So anyway, let's go ahead and do this. Friday, 8 o'clock, SEC Network for baseball. Saturday, 1 o'clock, ESPN2. So we got some real network television here. Sunday, 3 o'clock on the Plus. Now, usually on Sundays, what I like to do is go out to the golf course and put Cardozo on and listen to the game while I'm playing golf. I enjoy it. That way I don't lose track. So the fact that it's only on the Plus is fine. Although I could watch on the Plus. Softball. They're at Georgia. 6 o'clock Friday on the Plus, ESPN Plus. 11 a.m. on ESPN2. So you have to get up a little early to watch that. And then noon on ESPN2 the following day on Sunday. So you got a lot of stuff to watch just in regards to that. Lacrosse. Senior Day plays its final home game. They'll host a regional, though, I think. They play at noon on Saturday, okay? And that's also on ESPN Plus. So there's going to be a lot of stuff for you to kind of try to decide what you want to do. They play Temple. That'll be a big match there in the AAC. And then you get to the NBA, and of course, there's a lot of games on. Friday, 3 games. Including 2 series that are 1-all, and ESPN's got them all on Friday, 5:30, 8:30, and 10:30. 5:30, 8, and 10:30. Milwaukee, Indiana, Clippers, and Dallas, and then Miami. I said Milwaukee, Indiana, and then Minnesota in the last game. My writing sometimes is not good. All right, Saturday, you got 4 games. First 2 are on TNT, the next 2 are on ABC. You find them. Although I will say, Denver at the Lakers is the last game. So that's the one I think a lot of people might stay up for, 9:30 game. And that is on ABC. And then Sunday, 4 more games. The first two are on ABC. The next two are on TNT. That's all I got for you. That'll keep you busy for the week. And of course, watch the Zurich Classic especially if Tyson Alexander and Billy Horschel up there. We'll watch that. We'll pay attention to it. That's going to do it for the show. Thanks to Zach for doing a wonderful job as always. We'll take a break and come back to you in about 4 days. And that'll be Monday with Coach Spurrier. Look forward to that. Till then, I am Pat Dooley. I am deep, I'm way back, and I am out of here.